All right, welcome to our career site. Whether you are on the job hunt, where you're looking for positions, whether you heard about us or you just stumbled upon us and you're curious to see how we do it and what our processes are, welcome. The approach that we like to take is 100% as much as possible, being transparent with you so you know what to expect, you know what's going on our end, we know what's going on your end, and just being transparent with our salaries, different tasks, requirements that will be required of you should you get a position, and the whole process in general, right? That's just the approach we want to take. And that's the intent of this site and this video, to walk through those different steps. All right, so digging in, we're on the main page here, right? So if you can see on the main page, up on the upper right, we have a positions button. That's if you want to just go straight to the positions. You don't want to hear me continue to talk, or you don't want to see the process, the overall process. You just want to go straight to the positions. You've been here before and you just want to get down to it. You could either click here or click here. All right. As we scroll down, I'd like to call your attention to this section where we talk about the overall process, right? And it's a 6-step process, as you'll see here, right? I'm going to walk through them really quickly. Okay, so our 6-step process for application recruitment, right, starts with applying for a position, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So you apply for a position right here. It takes about 2 minutes. It's really quick. You just fill in an application and then you're done. Step 1 is done. All right. Step 2, candidate qualification, right? And you'll see a us and you'll see a you next to each one of these steps. Now that stands for us, as in NTI, and you as in you. That doesn't stand for United States. But that's just to show you, and so you know who should be doing what, and where everyone is in this whole process, right? So back to step 2, candidate qualification. After you apply, we see in our database that you applied for X position, and we check to see if you meet some of the qualifications. And this is a general qualification. For example, I'll give you one. So if the position calls for a top secret clearance, and you do not have a top secret clearance, you are automatically not qualified, right? So if you are not qualified, you'll be notified immediately, right? So that's step 2. Now, if you meet all of the general qualifications, right, you move on to the next step, which is step 3. Step 3 is an on-demand video interview, right? You're going to receive an email from us, and in that email, you're going to receive instructions on how to complete an on-demand interview, right? That on-demand interview is just as it sounds. It's on demand. You can do it whenever you want. You can set aside some time, but be aware that the longer you take to do your interview, the more chance others have to do their interview. And if you wait too long, you may lose out on the position. So anyway, back to the on-demand video interview. So you get the invite. You open up your browser. You follow the instructions. It'll come up. It'll walk you through. Hey, answer the questions. They're going to pop up on screen, and you just follow along, answer the questions, just as if it was a real interview. The questions are going to pop up on the screen. You do it through your webcam, etc., right? You can do as many takes as you want, right? But once you submit, it's submitted, right? So that's step number 3. After you complete that, you move on to step 4. Step 4 is falls on you and us, right? So once that on-demand interview is received and reviewed by us, we'll go ahead and send you an invite for a live interview. Now, in most cases, this is done through Microsoft Teams. However, in some rare cases, we may need or request you to come in to speak with us, and those are typically for positions that have a unique twist to them. But I would say 95% of the time, it's going to happen over a Microsoft Teams virtual meeting. All right. Once that is completed, we then move you on to candidate selection, which is you go into the applicant pool with the rest of the people that made it to this stage. We bounce it off of our time to close out this position, and we go from there, right? So if you are not selected, just as if in the qualification section, we will notify you, right? And if you've ever applied for a job before, you know that's not the norm. But again, we're trying to be as transparent as possible and keep you in the loop. That doesn't mean you can't apply for another position that you feel you're qualified for, right? We hope you're qualified for it, but that doesn't mean you can't reapply for another position, right? So you'll be notified if you're not selected, and if you are selected and you're notified, that notification will dovetail you into this offer letter, right? And the offer letter is your traditional offer letter. Hey, here are the parameters, here's what you can expect, etc., etc. And that is our hiring process, illustrated in a nutshell. All right, and as we continue on down the site, you're going to see another button, which is the same as this one that we talked about earlier. That will take you straight to our positions, as well as an invite to follow us on LinkedIn or YouTube, just the social media platforms that we use at this current time. We'd appreciate a follow. We're putting out good content, and we'd love for you to stay engaged with us on those platforms. Okay, now digging into the positions, right? What you came here for. So when you click on positions, it'll take you here right off of the main page. Right now, what you see in this gray box is directly synced to our database of open positions. And I want to make a note of that because this is updated real time. If you come here and you click on, let's say, this position, and you were here previously and you noticed all of the tasks, and then now there are like 3 more that weren't in there last time, or requirement change for a clearance, or maybe a location type change to on-site or remote, right? That's because this is updated real time, 100% transparent, like I said earlier, up to the minute updates, and it is not static, right? Just keep that in mind. The pay range may go up, the pay range may go down, right? The requirements may change, they may get stringent, they may loosen up, right? So just be aware of that. The key point being, if you see something you're qualified for, apply. Don't wait, right? Just apply if you know you're qualified for it. All right, so let's go ahead and dig into the position screen and description. So if you click anywhere on one of the positions, it'll take you in to the details section, right? So you got your apply now. We're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to dig into that a little bit later. But you got your general information. You got your title, who you report to, salary range. Now let me go ahead and take a quick snippet and discuss the salary range. Okay, so salary range, right? Every company does it different, right? But the reason why we're posting it is because we're trying to be transparent again, right? We're trying to save your time. We're trying to save our time. If this is too low, too high for you, or whatever, at least you know right now what the range is. Now, in addition to that, if the upper part of the range is $75,000, I know you've heard this before. I know I've heard it before, right? Well, negotiate for the best possible salary you can. Well, I would say negotiate for the best possible salary you are qualified for, right? Companies like ours as well, we're not paying our employees the best possible salary they can negotiate for. Our aim is to pay you the best possible salary you're qualified for, right? And anything in between or less than that, right, just wouldn't be right for all parties, right? So understand that this $75,000, right, for this particular position, this is the upper range. So unless you meet every single qualification, which is not hard, right? But if you unless you meet every single qualification, unless you have the exact required or higher education, all of the required certifications, you have every single thing, every single duty and responsibility you are very familiar with, have executed for years, right? You have all the skills. Unless you meet every single thing, right? It's just not realistic to expect, or not even fair to expect that you can negotiate your way up to the highest upper range of that salary. That's just what it is, right? That's just being honest, right? Which is something I wish a lot more people would do. Anyway, so as we continue down, just some basic description on the position. I'm not going to go through every single one because it's self-explanatory, but in closing, I will say this. Everything here, unless otherwise specified, is required. If this said top secret clearance in required, and you didn't have a top secret clearance, you're not qualified, right? If you have a secret clearance and it said top secret clearance, you're not qualified, right? So everything in here is required unless otherwise specified. And when I say otherwise specified, it would say desired, right? But otherwise, everything in here is required. So we looked at this position. If you click on apply, it'll open up another link. Okay. Once this link pops up, all you need to do is fill in your information. We're going to walk through it. Now, if you notice, it opened up a new tab. You click on add, and every single position that is open, it will pop up here. All you need to do is go back here and look at the code here for the position that you are applying for and select that one. The reason why I'm calling that out is because there may be multiple positions that are open with the same title, but every position has a unique identifier, which is the number within these brackets, okay? And just because they have the same title doesn't mean they'll always have the same requirements. So make sure you make a note of the position and the ID, so when you do apply, you select the right one. Okay, so you select the right one. In this case, it was the facility manager, I believe. You enter your first name, middle name or middle initial, last name. If you do not have one, just put in none, NA, NMI, no middle initial. Okay, if there's a suffix, junior, the third, senior, your email. Now, please use your primary personal email, whether it be a Gmail, Hotmail, Outlook, whatever the case may be, but use the same email throughout this process, because if you enter an email here and then we send you the on-demand interview link and you put in a different email when you go to do your on-demand interview, like we talked about in the other step, it's not going to correlate the two, right? It's going to create two different entries for you. So you want to use the same email that you use every single time. All right. Okay. So mobile phone, self-explanatory. LinkedIn. Now it's not, as you can see, it's not required because not everyone has a LinkedIn, but we're going to search you anyway. So you might as well just put it in there if you have one. Same thing with Facebook, right? I don't know if you've ever heard this. We're just being transparent. All companies, not all, can't speak for everyone, but most companies are going to look you up or attempt to look you up on Facebook anyway. So help us ensure we find the right you if you do have one, but again, optional. But like I said, we're going to look you up regardless, just like almost every other employer. Do you have a personal website? Are you a professional that has their own website for what they do, and you would like us to check that out? Make sure you put that in there. Not required though. Street address, self-explanatory. City, state, all of these are self-explanatory. Country, please, if you live in the United States, enter it just like this, USA, all caps, all right? Related experience. So this is the amount of experience you have directly in the position you're applying for. In this instance, for example, we're applying for the facility manager. Don't put in 5 years of experience as a facility manager if you've been working as a professional for 5 years, but you were working as an IT help desk professional. That's not 5 years directly related to the position you're applying for, right? So in this instance, it would be how many years do you have directly related to being a facility manager? Okay, now this next one is for how many years of experience you have professional, right? And this is where you would put in, I've been part of the workforce for X amount of years, right? In total, right? You entered the workforce, worked for 5 years, took a 2-month break because you were raising your children, and then you entered the workforce again and you worked for another 3 years. That's 8, right? 5, 3, that's 8 years total. Okay, your current job title. If you're unemployed, put unemployed or none. Current employer, that's optional, right? A lot of times, and just some explanation on that. Sometimes people say, well, why would you want to know who my current employer is? Well, maybe you want us to know who your current employer is. Maybe you want us to know that you are coming from X company that has specific experience in doing this type of position or is well known for doing that, right? And it would help us better understand your skills and expertise. But again, 100% optional. Your expected salary. Now, again, this is in the spirit of transparency and just making it better and keeping it honest for everybody, right? We're going to discuss this with you in depth as we go through the different interviews. But again, we showed you what the salary ranges were, right? And I talked about it briefly about our perception and the way we look at it. But be honest, right? I mean, it's there to help you. If your expectation is way higher than what we listed, it won't match, period, right? If you're way lower than what we listed, that's going to be pretty weird too. So we just want to make sure we're aligning the right people with the right positions, because it's not always about just getting hired and getting the job. Because if you just get hired, do whatever and say whatever it takes to get hired, and then you get hired on with us and you're unhappy, your expectations weren't met, right? Everyone loses, and that's the last thing that we want, right? Is for someone's expectations not to be met, or just anyone amongst this process to be unhappy, right? So education level. So this is the highest level you achieve, right? Not what you're going through currently, not what you're working on, right? What the highest level you've completed. All right, security clearance. Talked about that earlier, right? And this is what you currently hold or is active, right? Not I had this clearance 5 years ago, but it expired 3 years ago. What you have and what you have a current investigation, a current closed investigation for, right? Any barriers to a clearance, right? This is optional, right? But the reason why we ask you this up front is, let's take that facility manager position again as an example. If you have something, right, that you feel or know will be a barrier to getting a higher clearance, right, then if you let us know now, right, and you don't even need to state what it is, you could just put, yes, there is a barrier, right? But if there is a barrier and you let us know now, at least we can get ahead of it and maybe start looking for some kind of waivers, or depending on what level the clearance is, it may or may not be, right? But it's just to get ahead of it, right? But you can choose to not answer, and then we cross that bridge when we cross that bridge, which we will eventually, and that's just to save you time and help you out. All right, now 8570, if you don't know or understand what DoD 8570 is, go ahead and click on that link, right? Once you click on that link, for every certification that you do hold that falls within the categories on DoD 8570, you go ahead and select them, right? And you can select more than one. If you don't have any, you just select, I don't have any. Okay? Certifications, anything that wasn't listed here, even if they're not related to the job, I say put them down, because it shows us and helps us with the breadth of experience that may be in areas. Let's say you're applying for the facility manager position again, and you want to list down that you have these 3, let's go, coding certs. Hey, at least we know that you have a background in coding, right? May help with understanding the little intangibles that you may offer. Who knows? Okay, relevant professional info, anything else that wasn't captured in these questions. This is really your chance to talk about why we should consider you, why there may be some breaks in employment, anything you want to let us know ahead of time that you feel would make you a better candidate and make you more qualified for the position that you're applying for. Last one, self-explanatory. You just attach your current resume. Please, I got to state this. Make sure you're attaching a resume that is current. And for those of you out there that tailor your resumes, make sure that if you send an email, or a resume, make sure you're sending one that is not tailored for another job, because that has happened before. And we open it up and we're like, this has nothing to do with this job. So just make sure you're sending in the appropriate resume. All right, and that's the application process. All right, that covers our career site. We hope you liked it. We hope to see an application from you soon, and hopefully you'll be joining our team soon. We talked about the main page that you're looking at here. We talked about our six-step process. We talked about the positions. We talked about the details for each position. We talked a little bit about some of the key details that often get overlooked or misunderstood, and we talked about the application process. So glad for you to be here. If you want to learn more about NTI as a whole, please visit our site here, cybersuper8a.com, right? And we hope to see you on the other side.